Welcome back everyone, once again to another tier maker update list. This is going to be a quick update here for the heavy class trucks. Now, this class has actually had more changes brought into it since season 6, since my last tier maker review, and I definitely felt it was worth updating this list here. So that's what we're going to do. And just to give you a quick disclaimer here, this is my personal tier list. You are absolutely free to disagree. You have your own bias. I have mine. I do have a ton of hours playing this game. I think I'm coming up on 3,000 right now. I'm a little bit off. However, from testing, reviewing trucks, interfacing with other people that have dedicated a lot of time with reviewing trucks and such, these are my conclusions for these vehicles. And if you want to see any more detail on these trucks, I have fully reviewed every single one of them on this list. Also, you can go reference the last video, the tier maker, and actually see what my justifications were for putting them in this place, because I am going to breeze through here and just fill this out. But then we will talk about the new additions in a little bit more detail. Not too much, but just a little bit to know why I actually felt that these should sit in place. So without further ado, guys, let's get started here. We'll start filling this thing out from the D and then move our way up. So the only one that goes in the D, like I said before, is going to be the Caterpillar 770G for reasons that I explained in prior videos. After that, in the C category, we're going to put the Aeromatsu Forester, and then we'll put the Azov Antarctic. They still are very strong vehicles, even though they sit in the C. This is just because they can't do a ton more than what they're specialized to do. So that's why I felt they sat there. Now, here's where some changes come. In the B category, I still feel that the Navistar 5000 MV is still really strong in the B category. And then I think right behind it actually is going to be the 1430. Now, you're probably thinking, why the 1430 has a double dead axle? And yeah, it doesn't have a diff lock and doesn't even have a race suspension. However, since Sabre actually gave it its always on, or since it gave it its all-wheel drive, things have changed, and I've spent a ton of time in this vehicle actually in the new phase, because also they've updated its ability to be more versatile, from giving the all-wheel drive upgrade, and also it can do stuff like this now, and also it has a crane, low saddle, crane, flatbed, hitch trailer. It can do a lot of things. It's become a better versatile vehicle. Now, the downside, which kind of held it back from being placed higher up, well, it's going to be its ground clearance, and then also not having a diff lock. However, I did make a comparison video in which was also an update on this vehicle, that I said that there is a little bit of a similarity between this and the 5000 MV because of these tires right here. This is the only Western Star truck in the Wolfpack DLC to get these OHD 1 tires. Yes, they are super small and it doesn't have a race suspension, but I've used this truck a lot in Phase 8 and it just ran through mud. There wasn't really anything I ever got stuck on except whenever you ran into the dead axle part. And that was really few and far between, only in places like Harvest Corp when you're going, over those river crossings, and you have to cross up over those logs and such like that. Other than that, this vehicle has probably gotten the best update in the Wolfpack DLC. And I really feel it's strong, really strong hauler. There's really nothing it can't pull with a 220,000 torque engine here that shares with the 49X, the 1424, and the 57X. So I felt this was a really strong B in my opinion. So that could be my bias, but I do have some really a lot of time in this truck to kind of back that up. Sweet. Let's continue with the B category. Sweet. So I want to put the Boar back where it was. I think the Boar got that upgrade with its tires, made it definitely stronger than it was prior to the OHD upgrade. And I talked a little bit about that before on my other tier list video if you want to hear a little bit more about that. Anyways, right behind that is going to be the Pacific P512PF. Has amazing tires, has a diff lock for its back tires, amazing tires with the 3.5 coating, however, not an all-wheel drive. I do feel it is much more versatile than other Pacific trucks. I think it fits right in here to the B. Next vehicle I want to throw up here into the B category right behind it is going to be another Western Star truck. Actually, it's the 49X. 49X lands here because, well, it has the dead axle as well. I don't think it's as stable as the 1430, which is another reason why it actually dropped a couple places. However, it feels very similar, yet it has a diff lock. It doesn't have a tire option. So I still really like the 49X. I've played really well in it, but I do feel it sits there really well. Next is its brother, the 1424, and we'll talk a little bit about the 1424. But if you want any more information on these new Western Star trucks, I've done a full review on all of them, and also an update review whenever they got their all-wheel drive edition. So you can guys go check that out and look at that for yourself. Now let's find it. So the really cool thing about the 1424 is it actually gets a roof rack, and this is the Western Star that has a roof rack, and it was originally my favorite Western Star Wolfpack DLC, and it also was the only Wolfpack DLC truck to originally get a switchable diff lock, and then they gave it a switchable all-wheel drive. So this is the only Wolfpack DLC to have a switchable all-wheel drive and a switchable diff lock, which is awesome. I love it. Also has the largest tires of the Wolfpack DLC with its race suspension. It does have an active. I just chose to use the race just to get it that much farther off the ground. Ground clearance is actually not too bad. However, the things that did hold it back is it's very limited on what it can do. Same thing, just like the 57X, like I explained back in the highway and heavy duty class, I think if it could utilize a small crane here in conjunction with a low saddle, because you can see it's meant to haul trailers with this downsloping part on its aft end, very close to the end of the tires, the frames cut off. It would be really, really awesome as a tractor to pull those large trailers with that massive engine it has. I think it would do even better than the 57X if it just had a small crane in conjunction with this. However, you do have some maintenance frame add-ons. It can do a sideboard bed, but other than that, it's not that useful in my case, I guess. I do love it. I would still use it as a low saddle puller. However, I have felt with the sideboard bed and the race suspension, it kind of sways a little bit. I don't know if it's because of the roof rack, but that's just something you're going to have to pay attention to. But I do feel that this truck had a very good come up here in the upgrade to the Wolfpack DLC. Let's continue filling this thing out. I think the Pacific P12 goes right here. The only reason that I think it stays down is just because its power is a little bit underwhelming because it's so darn heavy, right? Next goes the next is actually the Derry. I think the Derry 3194 is definitely still strong, even though it does kind of struggle a little bit with power. Same kind of scenario as the P12. It doesn't have switchables. These are always on though, which I still think is good. Next is going to be our beloved P16. I think that definitely stays where it's at. And then after that, that is the end of the B category. Let's move up here. So standard, I love the Dan. I think after the active suspension, this thing became super strong. The front collisions on its nose became less and less, even from driving on some really bumpy terrain up there in Maine, bouncing around on the west side of the map there in the lowlands. I rarely had collisions with my nose because of that active suspension, and it's so stable that it really didn't affect its balance at all, which I really, really loved. And then next, I think the Derry Longhorn 4520 with its brand new engine giving it 230,000 torque really boosted it because it's very nimble for a very, very heavy truck. Great tire options. Now its power is even better. Yes, it's not like super amazing, but it still boosted its power to a point where it is so much better to pull heavy cargo with. Next is going to be the Thatcher Force. I really like the Thatcher Force, especially in low gears. When its diff lock is actually engaged, it is a monster in low gears. However, outside of low gear, you're going to have bleeding off power, and you're not going to have turning of all your wheels. I've explained this in the review on it, and yeah, you can try it out yourself and you'll basically see what I'm talking about. Same thing with the Tatra T813 in low gear, low plus. Amazing. One of the better vehicles with fuel performance. It is insane how good this thing is on fuel. Really good. Next, the Twin Steer is just is a freaking monster. Just because the way I drive it, I don't use it with the massive tires on it because I'm a little bit more concerned with balance. So I think that's why I kind of slipped down here. It stayed here as a strong A. It can do one thing really well, which is haul massive amounts of cargo and not too much. I really like versatile vehicles, so I felt it was still strong because of how good it is in the mud. I definitely felt it had to stay up here in the A. Okay, a vehicle that I do want to talk about here, which is kind of a surprise, the Kirovets K700. I actually put it at the lowest A because I felt that it really is a strong truck outside of the annoyance of just farming, right? We all know how farming it really was kind of terrible after a couple missions and just became a super big burden with logistics of getting trailers to other areas, farming, restarting missions, and then the bulk loading contract that we all hated, gathering those 12 potatoes to deliver there. But after it was over, looking back on it, I really didn't like the tractors, but I had to be realistic. Some things I think that held it back from being up there in the S would be this engine is not the KZ-GT8's 530 Tango engine. It's a different one. It's just a placeholder. It doesn't have the same amount of torque. It's quite lower, but this vehicle still does really good. Has pretty good fuel consumption, pretty good fuel capacity, advanced special gearbox, and it gets really large tires. These are some of the larger tires in the game. Short wheelbase, articulating steering, and it also can be used as a repair vehicle if you need to. And then lastly, something I did not expect. Oh, it can use the manipulator crane too as well if you would like to do stuff with that. Haven't really messed around with this too much because I would rather just use a crane. However, if you want to use it, you can. But a thing I think is really cool about this is it actually can pull cargo loads, or it can haul hitch trailers. So you essentially could put this on here and then pull a fuel tanker behind you. And this is actually a really good support vehicle that's really stable. I found its stability was really good. That and its brother, the Kirovets K7M. So because of its off-road prowess, always on features, massive tires, its ability to be a good support vehicle, kind of like some of the vehicles up there in the S, because the heavy tiers they're just a little bit different. They're not as versatile, but yet they have great ability. I think the Kirovets here, this old timer in the series, definitely deserved a place here in the A category. So that's where it's going to stay. All right, moving on here. Now, for the S category, the king stays where the king stays. You can't dethrone him yet. So I don't know if Sabre is going to dethrone the king here in the year 3 pass. Who knows? They might. But as of now, the king sits up at top. Other than that, I believe the 73210 still is a very strong S. After that, the 5600 TS, despite burning a hole through its engine with its fuel consumption being insane, I still feel it's a really strong off-roader, especially with the OHD tires, having 10 of them, or having 10 sets or 10 tires. I think that's the number. I don't even know. It has so many wheels, but they all drive and they all have diff locks. So there is no dead axle on the 5600 TS. They're all put to use. So that's what makes it just great. After that, my bias here is probably going to say the Cat 745C over the Kirovets K7M. And if you want to know more about the Kirovets K7M, I have reviewed it along with its brother, the Kirovets K700. Also, a good friend and YouTuber, SD1, has actually done 2 videos and studies on the Kirovets outperforming a lot of these trucks that you're seeing sitting on this table right here. And the reason it does find a spot up here is because of that. Now let's check it out here. So the K7M has the largest tires in the game. Its engine is definitely not the largest in the game. It's rather weak. This is a very, very heavy vehicle. So heavy vehicle, one of the heavier vehicles in the game, coupled with double tires that are the largest in the game, you're going to get great performance out of this in deep areas. And from SD1's studies, you can see that on screen. If you would like to check those out, highly recommend him. He did a great job. This vehicle has 90 gallons capacity. Advanced special gearbox, it still gets relatively good fuel consumption. So no stock, just a stock suspension. The double tires are just an upgrade that you find there on Season 8. So I definitely would recommend using them. They do bump up your off-road prowess. And then something really cool about this vehicle as well as the K700 is it gets a van body add-on. However, it gets 48 extra gallons of fuel accompanied with this 90 gallons. So it actually gets way more than its brother does. I think even though its repair points are 200 less, I would rather have fuel in a couple hundred less. This thing can travel great distances. Also, if you hook up a trailer to it, you essentially have one of the most powerful rescue vehicles in the game. And I just didn't feel that it should sit behind the next two vehicles that are actually on this list, which are really, really strong vehicles. And they have been since the game launched. But the Kiervetz K7M, its off-road prowess definitely deserves a spot up here on the S. Okay, so the last two, I actually swapped these two. I actually put the needle nose, the 74941 above the 74760. And this is just my bias here. This is not taking anything away from the 74760. It's amazing, always on features, so its performance is better outside of low gears. However, I think the 74941 and also the 74941 has less fuel than the 74760. However, the 74941 might be one of the best vehicles for balance. It really took me a lot to tip this vehicle over, and I really tried hard. And whenever I was testing both these vehicles, I was sending them through things, trying to tip them over. And I found myself favoring the 74760, not allowing it to tip or not sending it through things as hard as I would the 74941. But the 74941, for some reason, holds on for dear life. It's crazy, but its balance is amazing. So if you're going to use it as a vehicle to go out and rescue someone without hauling a trailer, I think this is the vehicle to use. If you're going to haul something, I think the 74760 is going to be your choice, just because of their performance outside of low gears. Unless you know you're going to be in deep areas, throttled down in low minus or low plus, then it really doesn't matter in that case. So anyways, y'all, that is my tier list update here for the heavy vehicles. If you want to know any more information on any of these vehicles, go check out my SnowRunner truck review playlist. That has all these vehicles in detail with the pros and cons. Also, please go check out the tier maker, the first video of this. It will give you a breakdown of why I set these vehicles where they are, and that is definitely still relevant today, even though that video was made months ago. So go check it out. Let me know what you think. And as always, God bless and stay upright.